Okay. We just went live on Facebook and YouTube as well. So if you want to watch us there, if you're getting ready to get into your vehicle and go to a showing, feel free to obviously flip your phone over to be compliant with road laws and listen to us through your car speakers. We'll try to make this entertaining for you and keep its listenability high. I'm going to see if we are actually live now. It looks like we are. Let me make sure that the framing looks good. Oh, it looks great. Let me see if we can hear both of us. Robin, go ahead and talk.
Hey everybody, I'm Robin Horenzen. I'm the senior web developer at Union Street Media.
Oh, yeah, it is great. Awesome. Just doing some system checks. Thank you for your patience. Sounds like we're ready to go. We're streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. It's at high quality. So let your friends know if they didn't register for the webinar, they can join us there at Facebook and YouTube. It's Union Street Media, youtube.com/Union Street Media, and our Facebook is facebook.com/Union Street Media. Welcome, Carrie. Welcome, Kimberly. Thank you for joining us. We have about 6 minutes to get underway. Any questions, feel free to drop them in our chat. I'll be happy to answer anything you have. And by answer, I mean Robin will
answer. I'll do my best to answer. How about that?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Here we go.
Can you see my screen? We'll still wait for everyone to join, but I figured I'd just pull up the title screen.
Yeah, let me find a way to fit this better. Oh, okay. Then I can do that. That's good. And then, hang on. Fixing everything on social media. Stand by. I want to make sure that it looks right on YouTube and Facebook, that the scaling's good. So, okay, let me check YouTube one more time.
I'm the senior web developer.
Oh, if I close out of it, I should be able to reopen. Come on, I know we're live. There we go. Okay. Oh, yeah. Now it looks great. Let me just triple check. Oh, yeah. Now it looks great. Oh, man, when you hear yourself on video, it's never as impressive.
It's always alarming, right?
Always alarming. Always.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for that input, Nancy. Really appreciate it. Glad you can see it. Welcome, everybody, to our webinar. We have 4 minutes until kickoff. Really excited to have you all here. If the reason that we really decided to take this approach with our webinar is because of all of the messaging we've been getting from a lot of MLSs that this is going to be a big push until the end of 2020. So if you know anybody that fits into your category and wants to learn more about ADA compliance and real estate websites, feel free to send them to our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. We are streaming live there as well. Robin, how hot is it down there?
It's pretty warm. It's the humidity that's bad. I'm in Florida, everyone, and I'm in Sarasota, Florida. So, but I hear Vermont's pretty hot these days too.
Vermont, yeah, it's been in the 90s for the last 5 days, which is incredible.
That's
hot,
wild.
incredibly hot. Probably not that abstract for Florida, but for Vermont, it's very abnormal.
Yeah.
Florida, wasn't there some sort of messaging from the Florida MLS on ADA compliance?
Yeah, I believe there was. I haven't seen the official statement, but I know that there's been a bit of an uptick in ADA lawsuits down here in Florida. So there's been a big push from the MLS to make sure that real estate websites are in compliance with ADA law. And we'll talk a little bit about that later once we kick off.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 minutes, guys. Get your questions in. Welcome to everybody. Thank you for joining us. I can't see our list of attendees right now, but if you want to ask any questions, feel free to drop them in our chat. I will be monitoring chat throughout the stream, so If you have any questions, if anything comes up that you don't understand, feel free to let us know. We're here to answer any and all of your questions. Also, welcome viewer. I don't know if you're on Facebook or YouTube, but I'm also monitoring those chats as well. So any questions, any comments, feel free to reach out. We are here to answer. And by we, I mean Robin. Yeah, Robin
I'll do my best.
Yeah, he will do his best. His best is great, by the way. And Robin is actually our senior web developer here at Union Stream Media, and he's very passionate about websites and ADA compliance and doing things the right way. So really excited to have him here to talk on this topic.
I don't know that I'd call myself an expert quite yet, but it's something I've definitely enjoyed working on for the past few months at Union Stream Media, and it's something that we're putting a lot of effort and time into making sure our sites are compliant. So.
Absolutely. 1 minute to kick off, everybody. Thank you for your patience. If you have to go to a showing or run off, don't worry about it. Just pick up your phone, pull up our Facebook page or our YouTube page, plug us into your car radio, and you can listen to this on your way. We'll make sure to make it listenable so that if you can't watch it, at least you can listen and you can get the information you need. And hopefully you're running off to showings. That's the whole idea, right?
Yeah. All right. It's hit 1 o'clock, so yeah, ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. How about you?
Sweet. I think I'm ready.
All right. Well, I'm gonna let Robin kick it off because he knows what he's talking about.
All right. So yeah, Christian introduced me earlier. My name's Robin Herenzen. I'm the senior web developer at Union Street Media, and I'm here to talk about ADA and how it relates to your website. So let's go.
Awesome. And my name's Christian, and I'm here to learn along with you guys. I'm just like you, and hopefully I can gather something here today as well.
So first question, of course, what is ADA? ADA stands for the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, and this is a civil rights law. And it prohibits discrimination based on physical and mental disability. So this is a law that ensures that people with disabilities have equal access to employment, public services, public goods, facilities, and accommodations. Some examples of implementations of ADA law are grab bars, wheelchair ramps, handicap parking. These are things people are pretty familiar with in brick and mortar stores. But you might ask, how does it relate to the web?
Yeah, how does it relate to the web?
Well, I'm sure most people weren't expecting to talk about pizza in this presentation, but last year there was a appeal from Domino's Pizza. They were stuck with a lawsuit where a blind person was unable to order a pizza through their website. So the plaintiff argued that not only does the Domino's brick and mortar store have to be compliant with ADA law, but their website does too. Domino's argued that their website does not need to, but their brick and mortar does. Well, this ended up, Domino's appealed this ruling, and it went up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court ended up ruling in favor with the plaintiff and said, yes, Domino's website does need to be accessible for people with disabilities.
Robin, where did you find this picture?
I got it on Google, where you get all of your photos.
Oh, man. I love the internet. So basically, what ended up happening is someone was unhappy with the functionality of Domino's website and filed class action against them, and they won.
Yeah. And I mean, so you might ask, how does a blind person use a website? Well, there's software out there, and we're going to get more into this later, but there are screen reader software. So you actually have software that reads a website to you and explains what the content is of the website, and then allows you through voice commands and other means to interact with their website. So in this case, someone was actually physically unable to order a pizza using their screen reader software. And this has really resulted in quite an uptick in ADA lawsuits. The industry that's hit the hardest is certainly retail. These are some statistics from last year, from 2019. as I said, retail is really the majority of the lawsuits, but it's not specific to the retail industry. It extends to food service, hospitality, entertainment, and of course, real estate. Now, real estate agencies do not make up the majority of ADA lawsuits, but there is a certain percentage that is taken up by real estate agencies. So about roughly 3% of lawsuits are filed against real estate agencies. You'll see every year on the right-hand chart, there's an increase in cases every year. There was a slight decrease from 2018 to 2019, but this is speculated to be because plaintiff lawyers were waiting to hear back from the Supreme Court and their ruling on the Domino's pizza case. So because Domino's was ruled against by the Supreme Court, it's likely that in 2020, we're going to continue to see quite a big increase in the number of cases.
Okay. And I guess the next question is, how do I know if a website is accessible? And I mean, I have no clue.
Right. So, I mean, you might say, well, how come a screen reader is able to dictate a website and maybe not use another website? So why was Domino's not usable?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, there's a list of standards that were developed by the World Wide Web Consortium, which is an international community that develops various technology standards across the web. And they developed the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, and the current version is version 2.1. Now, these guidelines determine what makes a website accessible. Now, there's different levels of compliance. There's single A, there's double A, and there's triple A. So these are cumulative, which means that if you are double A compliant, which means that you meet the standards that the standards of the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines for double A conformance, you are also single A. So that means that if you're triple A, you're both double A and single A compliant as well. Now, AAA is difficult to achieve for many sites. In fact, AAA is not recommended for certain sites because certain content is not able to be AAA compliant simply because of how strict the rules are around that level of compliance. Mm-hmm. So really sort of the standard and what people's goals should be for level of compliance is AA. Mm-hmm. That should be enough to protect you from these sorts of lawsuits that we've just talked about.
Yep. Robin, real quick, Danielle, or Daniel, Daniel, said that 3%, the 3% in the slide before, can you go back to that slide?
Sure.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. They said the 3% will change. Some groups and attorneys move from industry to industry and send a letter in order to ultimately settle. So let me just make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So your impression is that that number will go up or that number will go down? I'm curious.
Certainly the total number is going to go up.
The total number is going to go up. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm not sure what sort of the percentages is going to look like moving into 2020, 2021. Mm-hmm. And it's certainly going to change. And Daniel is certainly right. They do target specific industries and sort of run through these. These types of lawsuits are not always necessarily legitimate. It's not always necessarily an individual who is disabled and is unable to use a website. These can come from attorneys that are simply trying to make a quick buck from businesses. So whether whether or not that's moral or not, that's not really what this is about. But the point is that either way, we are going to see an increase in these sort of lawsuits, and it is possible that real estate agencies could get targeted as a primary target for these lawsuits. Yeah. Retail is sort of an easy target because with retail, a lot of times there's a purchasing process and you're selling products on your site, and that's a much more complicated implementation of a website and can often result in these sort of gaps in compliance just because their process for purchasing products is a little bit more complicated than a static website. Yeah. But even like with a restaurant, for example, that even if you're just showing a menu on your website, you can still be vulnerable to these types of lawsuits. Sorry, Christian, didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, that's okay. That's great. Daniel completely agreed, and He did say, however, he disagrees with opportunists, which I think we can all agree with. And then we have John. My real estate client received a letter from a law firm representing a nonprofit for this current situation. Wow. Okay. Well, that's a good reason for you to be on this webinar then. And then we have John. I think it's Lawrence. I'll reply live in chat. Asked, should we assume that all USM websites are at least AA compliant?
We'll get to that a little bit later, and the efforts that Union Street Media has made to make sure that our sites are compliant. But it never hurts, sort of in short, it never hurts to reach out to your DSS and just say, hey, would you mind doing a quick audit on my site, or even conducting an audit yourself and then providing a list of changes that you need to see done to make sure that your site is compliant. We can't be sure. We have 500 websites. It's difficult for us to do an audit for every single website, but we're happy to do them when requested by our clients.
Yeah, and we have a lot of great stuff. Okay, so we can get back on track.
Okay, so back to the web standards. So these are really related to the technical implementation of web content. So how your website is implemented, the HTML, the code behind your website. Much of these guidelines relate to how the code is implemented and what is missing from the code. So examples of this might be a form input needs a label. That's a pretty common one, right? So every time that you have to enter in some sort of information into a form, whether it be a contact form or on our websites, the natural language search, these types of forms need input labels to describe what that form is for to people with disabilities. So that's what the screen reader does, is it's actually going to describe that that form is used for either contacting the person or maybe submitting a search, things like that.
Okay.
So how do you know if your website's accessible, right? What's out there to help me figure out what I can do in order to make my site more accessible? There's a lot of automated tools that are available for free. Axe, Wave, Google Lighthouse, PowerMapper, SortSite by PowerMapper. These are tools that are free. They're available online, and they will help to determine where the gaps in compliance are on your website. These types of software will not find everything. It's more of sort of a guideline or a way to help you find some of these issues if you're not a very technical person or you don't know how to look at HTML. And I use them. I think that they're very helpful. But again, these aren't going to find everything. I've heard from other professionals that they find maybe 30% of violations on your site, but it's certainly going to get you in the right direction.
Yeah.
JAWS is the most, sorry, Christian, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's okay. I was just going to say, yeah, it's a great temperature check. And a lot of times what ends up happening is you do get some false positives, which is probably why it's in that 30% range. But at least having a temperature check of where your website stands is a great way to start.
Exactly. So actually here, we can actually pull up some of these tools. Hold on. Sorry, we're just going to pause right here. So this is Axe. This is a browser extension. So this is a tool that you just click a button in the top right corner of your browser, and it'll run it on the page you're on, the web page that you're on, and give you a list of corrective actions needed in order to become compliant and more accessible.
Hey, Robin, we have someone asking if we can run it against their website, Carrie Blakely. Carrie, we will run it against Domino's just to keep it topical, but we can definitely do this for you after the webinar, no problem.
I'm going to go through a couple more tools. Wave is also a pretty popular one. Again, this does it page by page, and they do offer a browser extension for Chrome, but they also have an online version, so you can actually do it directly on their website. You don't have to necessarily use the browser extension, where I believe Axe is only available as a browser extension. Again, Wave is only going to check a single page, so you're going to have to do it for every page of your site. Now, this tool, PowerMapper, SortSite by PowerMapper, this is a great tool because it does check all of your website. It checks every page on your site, and it gives you a list of issues, and it categorizes them whether they're single A, double A, or triple A, which is very helpful for most people. That way you can kind of say, well, if that's a triple A violation, that's not going to be a priority for me. Oh, but these single A violations, those are going to be a priority because those are the most important. We need to be at least single A, right? So this is a great tool. It's free. It's online. I suggest people check it out. And here's a little screenshot down here that kind of shows their interface and sort of the report that it gives you. You can also print this report or export it. So if you get this report, you could export it and provide it to your web developer or your website provider in order for them to make corrective actions to fix these gaps on your website. Finally, we have Google Lighthouse, which I really like too. This gives you a score at the end and gives you a list of recommendations on ways to improve your performance score. Again, Lighthouse is page by page, so it won't do your whole site.
Real quick, we just had someone ask if there will be a recording of this webinar. Yes, there is a recording of this webinar. Please go to our Facebook page or our YouTube page and subscribe or like our Facebook page. We will have this posted on our YouTube channel tomorrow and available for everybody. You guys are obviously getting the firsthand experience and you're getting a lot of your questions answered. But if you find this useful or you want to touch back on this webinar or make sure, like John asked, he showed up 2 minutes late and he was worried if he missed something, go to our YouTube channel, subscribe. It's youtube.com/Union Street Media. And we have a lot of other really great content there. We have webinars we do every few weeks that we upload. Lots of great topics. One of them is virtual tours and open houses. Now that we're not able to show houses as much as we used to be able to in our current climate. So yeah, there's my shameless plug for our YouTube channel. Oh yeah,
great.
It's youtube.com/Union Street Media. So it's just our name. If you search Union Street Media in YouTube, you'll find it.
Great. Awesome. So I'm going to try to run one of these accessibility checkers on the Domino site, since we were talking about Domino's earlier. I had pizza on the mind. I'll just use the Wave accessibility checker. I'm just kind of picking one. Some are better than others, but this one is sufficient for this demonstration. So as you can see, it runs instantly, which is really nice. And it actually points out specifically where the violations are occurring. So on the left-hand sidebar, you're going to see that it has one error. And this error is a missing form label. But if I go through this site, if I click on it, it's saying that the form is somewhere down here, but I'm not actually seeing any form inputs. So I'm not seeing any missing labels for any form inputs just because I'm not actually seeing that form.
So just for the entertainment of myself and the curiosity, what would you consider a form?
A form is any input, right? So if you a contact form, for example, a search bar, for example, these are form inputs. Anything that's a drop down, a selector, that's still a type of form. So I'm not seeing any inputs here. So it's possible that this tool is giving a false positive, which can happen. Christian mentioned this earlier. These tools are more of a guideline. They're not going to catch anything, and they might catch or call out errors that are not actually errors on your site. However, it's certainly a good starting point, and it will call out certain issues that are important to address. So remember, this is not the end-all, be-all, but it's certainly a great place to start, and it's a good temperature check, as Christian has said.
Yeah, and the best part is it's really, really easy to use. As soon as you download the plugin, it's just one click away once you're on the right website.
And it's free, which is really great.
All right.
So how do you make your website more accessible? You say you've run your checks, you've come up with a list, but you kind of say, well, now what, you know? Well, there's various approaches. Certainly, I like to use the accessibility checker software as a first step, and then come up with a list of actionable items, corrective actions. Once you've done that, it depends on what kind of website you have, right? Say you're a web developer and you're comfortable with HTML. You might be able to make a lot of these changes yourself, as generally they are going to be somewhat simple HTML markup changes. Not a big deal. But if you're not so savvy with HTML, you might want to contact your web developer or your website provider and ask them to implement these changes. And I'm sure for the most part, they would be absolutely happy to do so. You can also pay for a professional company to do a manual audit, which means that they're actually going to go through the code of your website line by line and find anything that does not conform to the WCAG 2.1 standards.
That's going to be
now
expensive.
these are expensive. They're very expensive. So it's certainly the most effective approach to identify any gaps in compliance. However, it's not always the right fit for everyone because of the big price tag on it.
Mm-hmm. Or it looks like they could get the Union Street Media Philo template and be 94 out of 100.
So on the left hand side we have one of our turnkey templates, which Google Lighthouse has given a 94 accessibility score, which is pretty good. And even you'll see here that it calls out a couple things that might even be false positives, like this link does not have a discernible name. That it may be that those links actually do have a discernible name, but their automated software wasn't able to see that. So it could go either way. Either it's going to miss certain violations, or it might actually indicate that there is a violation when there isn't one. There are also some plugins that you can get for your website. They're like JavaScript snippets that you put in on your website that offer a little tool. It's often in the form of like a small icon in the bottom right-hand corner. When you click on it, it will give you options for resizing text, and it's a little toolkit for screen readers and for people who have disabilities. These types of plugins generally are not regarded to be effective in terms of making your site compliant. It's generally understood that the only way to make your site compliant is with actual code changes, not slapping in a JavaScript plugin on sort of the front end of your site and hoping that it's going to fix anything that's wrong. You need to change the code of your website. But here at Union Street Media, that's what I'm here for, and that's what our development team is here for. Just reach out to your digital success specialist at Union Street Media if you're a client with us, and we'd be happy to take a look at your site and take any corrective actions needed.
Yeah, Robin, what's a DSS?
Oh, a DSS, yeah, a digital success specialist. They're the person who's assigned to you to make sure that your website functions well and that you're happy, and that we're making sure that you're getting the service that you signed up for.
Okay.
So when you're adding content, there's approaches that you can take to make sure that the content you're adding is accessible and meets the guidelines. One of the most basic examples is alternative text. Now, alternative text is text that describes an image, right? So when a screen reader is dictating a website to a person with a disability, it needs to be able to describe what images it's seeing when it reaches them on the web page. The way it does this is with alternative text, and this is a HTML attribute, so you don't see it on the front end of your site. It's not going to be a visual component. It's not going to be visible to people, but it is going to be visible to screen readers, and that's what's most important. So when a screen reader hits that image, it'll say, this is an image of, and describe the image. And what that description is what your alternative text is. You want to add alternative text for every image you add to your website. And that's something at Union Street Media that we can do for you. We can do an audit of your homepage or any of your internal pages and make sure that that alternative text exists.
Yeah, a picture may not be worth 1,000 words, but maybe 1 or 2 dozen.
Sure, exactly. And that's actually a good guideline for how long your description should be. Doesn't need to be a novel, but it should certainly be descriptive enough to fully describe what the content of that image is. The next thing you want to do is you really want to make sure that you're using colors that are high contrast colors. So if you have a white background, you're going to want to use darker fonts. If you use darker colors of text, then it's going to be difficult for people who have visual impairments to see that, right? So maybe not someone who's fully blind, but someone who has difficulty seeing. You need your contrast to be high enough. And there's actually a mathematical formula that determines the contrast of your text or the content on your site. And there are checkers online to do this. The WCAG website has a little tool that you can use to enter hexadecimal values and check what the contrast is and whether or not it meets AA guidelines. Another thing you can do is make sure you're using header tags correctly, right? So generally speaking, you're going to want one H1 tag on your site, and you're going to want to make sure that when you use H2s and H3s, they're not empty, and you're going to want to make sure that they're in the correct order too. So these are things that you can do to make sure that your website meets these guidelines. So this goes back to John's question earlier. What has Union Street Media done, right? So a big question that we get all the time is, well, is my website compliant? And the truth is it's an ongoing effort that we're doing for all of our clients. We can't guarantee that a site that we launched 4 years ago is as compliant as a site that we launched yesterday, because we have a lot of clients, as I mentioned earlier, and it would take more time than we have to do a manual audit of every single site. However, we can make platform updates, and that's exactly what we've done. We've conducted numerous automated audits on our turnkey sites and on our premium sites, and we've made platform-wide updates. One of the things I mentioned earlier is forms. All form inputs need labels. So that natural language search bar on your site, if you're a Union Street Media client, that needs to have a label that actually describes what that form does. So we've updated that platform-wide. We've made sure that all buttons have descriptive text. If you have an icon, for example, a social media icon, whether or not you can see the text, there still needs to be text available for screen readers in that button to describe what the button does. So you have a button for your Facebook page. Well, that needs text in it that says Facebook. If it doesn't, and it's just an icon, a screen reader is going to hit it and they're not going to know what it is. They're not going to know what the button does or where it goes. So in order for the screen reader to dictate to the person with a disability, this is going to go to their Facebook page, there needs to be that text in the button. Well, we've made sure we've made that update across the platform. We've also made sure that there's no empty header tags on any of our system pages. And we do a manual audit when we launch new sites to make sure there are no things like color contrast issues, which we talked about, empty buttons, empty labels, empty headers, alternative text on all of your images. These are sort of the most common violations that you'll see on any website. And in fact, a lot of these lawsuits revolve around missing alternative text, missing form labels. So it's really not very complicated, and it's really something that can be done relatively quickly and easily for your website. And again, if you're a Union Street Media client, just reach out to us, contact your DSS, and they'll be able to help you. If you need an audit done of your site, if you have questions about your site, they're happy to walk you through it. And like I said, we're making continuing efforts on our platform to make sure that we're updating and meeting the WCAG standards. Christian, I can't hear you right now. I'm not sure if it's just on my end.
Oh, sorry. The neighbors are being loud, so I had to mute myself. That work from home life, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I was just saying, even if you're not a Union Street Media client, feel free to reach out. We'll be more than happy to do an audit with you and see if there's any advice that we can give you, and make sure that we're all just trying to do the right thing by everyone, right?
So yeah, there's time for questions if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, John, if you're not a client of ours, feel free to reach out to me. I'll drop my email in chat. Just shoot me an email if you have any questions. What course should I take if I have clients that need help? Oh, yeah, no worries. So, whenever I hit the shift key, it always tabs out of the webinar on the stream. Hang on 1 second. Haven't quite dialed this in yet. There is my email. Feel free to use it. Feel free to share it. Any questions, comments, concerns, filter them my way. I can filter them up to Robin or a digital success specialist or account strategist to reach directly out to you, just to make sure that we can get all your questions answered and all move in the right direction. So aside from John, does anybody else have any questions? We've got a lot of great questions during the webinar, which is unique because usually it's at the end of the webinar is when the flood comes.
I do want to touch base on John. If you're still on, I saw you sent in the law group that has filed a complaint against one of your clients. We actually got a complaint from one of them for one of our clients as well. We made corrective actions on their site to make sure that those issues had been addressed. But this is an example of an opportunist for sure. The company that they're representing, the nonprofit Access for All Inc., does not appear to be a real nonprofit. And actually, that law group has violations, ADA violations, on their own website. So this is someone who's going around and actually just trying to find violations and make a few bucks, and it doesn't seem to be legitimate, at least on face value to me.
Yeah, and we just had an anonymous attendee ask, do you find that your existing real estate clients have still received those lawsuit letters?
I'd say it's actually pretty rare. I've only seen one, and it was from that Portel Law Group, who is kind of making their rounds, so to speak, and trying to hit every real estate agency out there that there is, and filing the same complaint. But it's one thing John mentioned earlier is it might be that 2020 might be the year of real estate ADA lawsuits, or 2021 might be. We just don't know, so we need to be prepared. But no, for the majority of our clients, we have not seen a lot of these types of complaints.
Oh, and they said yes, Portel on behalf of Access for All.
Yep.
Yeah. Dun dun dun. All right. Is there any other questions? Anybody else have anything else that they want us to answer? Again, my email and our YouTube channel are both linked in the Zoom webinar chat. Please go subscribe to our YouTube channel. We would really love to have you there. We're coming out with new and higher quality content every single day to make sure that you are always up to date on all the information that you need to be successful with your digital storefront, especially when it's as important as it is now. This is really where our focus should be in 2020, and I'm really happy to see you all here. We'll give it another minute or so. Actually, while we're waiting, let's go see who subscribed. Go to, oh, you guys don't want to know what we're watching. Your channel, there's Macho Man Randy Savage. 153. We got a couple of subscribers, but I know there's more out there.
Smash that subscribe button, right?
That's right. Send a link of the YouTube channel to your friends. If you like the video, there's a lot of great engagement. It is unionstreetmedia.com youtube.com/Union Street Media. Whoops, should probably put the / in there, huh? /Union Street Media. Pulls up our channel. We have dozens of videos at this point. Lots of great content. Oh, there's one unlisted. That one's coming up today. So you get a sneak peek. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. It was really great to have you here. A big golf clap to Robin. That was excellent. I really appreciate it. John said, this is great. Thanks for your help, guys. Hey, no, thank you, John. I look forward to seeing your email if you have any more questions. Don't be afraid to send our YouTube link off to your friends if you think this is informative and they could find some value in it. We have 7 attendees left. Oh, hey, Therese. How's it going? Oh, yeah. So we got Brooke, John, Carrie, Kimberly, Nancy, Pam, and then we got Therese.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, thanks for joining. I enjoyed this, and there were some great questions. And if you have any other questions, just feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help. And we're here for you guys. I mean, anyone who is a client of ours, we want to make sure that your website's compliant. So don't hesitate to reach out.
That's right. Well, hey, also, please, everybody, stay cool. Did not get your email. My email is in the chat. ckelly@unionstreetmedia.com. It's at 127. So if you
there, I just sent it again too.
Oh, nice. Hey, thanks, Robin. Been making it easy since what? 1992? No, you're older.
No, I'm 92.
92? I nailed it? Ugh.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
I knew I was older than you.
Yeah. Well, I certainly, people say I have a baby face, so.
Same. They probably get on this webinar. They're like, oh, great. They have this webinar. There's a bunch of teenagers going to teach us. But
how are children going to know anything about ADA?
yeah, ADA, yeah. These guys, all these guys care about is, fishing and drinking a lot of water.
That's right. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Thanks again. And don't hesitate to reach out to us. So we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Take care.